The Titanic was the largest ship ever built in history.
Goodbye, miss you! Goodbye!
After so many years of its wreckage, this ship is still a hot topic discussion among people.
Titanic was called the Ship of Dreams.
It seems that with each passing year, the unsinkable sunken ship is unleashing itself. The main reason for Titanic to become the talk of the town is due to the movie Titanic that has been seen by everyone so far.
Jack Dawson.
What else do we pick here?
Here's a list of the 10 strangest facts about Titanic that you might not know. Maybe these 10 facts would give enough shreds of evidence for why the destruction of this massive ship was a human error rather than fate. Before moving further, make sure that you've already subscribed to our channel and the bell icon is pressed. So now, without any further delay, let's dig right into our list. Number 10. It was predicted. The Titanic sank into the Atlantic in April 1912, but its plunge was predicted several years before the disaster. The fate of the ship was written into works of fiction, which were about shipwrecks more than 14 years ago. The book's name was Wreck of the Titan, written by Morgan Robertson. Though he didn't intentionally write anything about the sinking of the ship, but all the events written in the book took place in reality. In the book, the name of the ship was Unsinkable. Robertson was considered a psychic after his words turned into reality. The more interesting fact is that another author, Stead, wrote a similar pseudo-supernatural foretelling of the Titanic. Stead inadvertently wrote his death into the book because he was on board the Titanic when it sunk. Number 9. Robert Fleat and lack of binoculars. Robert Fleat was famous for an unfortunate event in history. He was the crew member in the ship and was the first man to see the iceberg. He immediately told the crew about it. Unfortunately, the ship was very close to the iceberg that made it nearly impossible to change its path. The extreme calmness of the ocean and the absence of binoculars made it difficult for him to see the iceberg earlier. It had been told that the crew members did not have binoculars. For some reason, they had been locked into the room in the ship. The member who had the keys to the room had to board the ship at the last moment and forgot to give the keys to the crew. Fleet further accepted if they had a binocular, they would be able to see the iceberg earlier. After several years, Fleet hanged himself due to depression he got after his wife's death. Number 8. The first ever film on Titanic saved from the Titanic. Saved from the Titanic was the first ever movie on the sinking of the Titanic, which was released 1 month after the devastation of the ship. Yes, the Leonardo DiCaprio film is not the first movie made of the Titanic. An actress, Dorothy Gibson, who survived the incident, played the main character in the film. This was a little insensitive because she never wanted to play the role, as she had to reenact the events that happened to her. The film was a success, but the actress had a mental breakdown after completing the film. The film is now regarded as the last film because all of the material of the film was destroyed due to a studio fire. Number 7. Lifeboats. Unfortunately, a great amount of attention was paid to the beauty of the ship but lesser to the safety of the passengers. Did you know that all the passengers on the ship could have been saved if the ship had enough lifeboats? There were only 20 lifeboats on the ship, and each boat can carry only 60 people at a time. That means the lifeboats could have saved only 1,200 people. That is less than half of the people who boarded the ship. The main purpose of not installing enough lifeboats into the ship because they could occupy a lot of space, and also the frontal part of the ship wouldn't be so much attractive with all the boats. No one thought that the unsinkable ship would ever need to rescue people. They considered it strong enough to bear all the damages. Number 6. Drill cancellation. Lifeboat drills are the practice of passengers to learn how to remain calm in any disastrous situation. Besides, the training improves the skills of the crew on how to successfully evacuate the boats, but the lifeboat drill was canceled 3 days before the voyage. The captain of the ship perhaps was very confident that they wouldn't face any circumstances, so he canceled the lifeboat drills. As a result, there was poor coordination among the crew members. Also, the passengers fall a victim to panic. There was a great hustle during lifeboat evacuation. Some of the boats evacuated with half of the people in them. The poor decision of the captain caused many lives of people. Moving on to the next, the main reason that made the unsinkable ship sinkable was its design flaw. The cause of the rapid sinking of the ship was its poor design that caused water to flow from one compartment to the other. The ship got into two pieces because one side of the ship got heavy due to the water flow, and it began to tilt down in front. The front of the ship sank into the water that leads to the lifting of the stern part. This is another clear proof of the blunder that became the cause of massive destruction and loss of precious lives. Number 4. One smokestack was fake. At that time, the funnels used to be a symbol of speed and safety. This thing was taken seriously by the designer. Yes, the designer of the ship was very much obsessed with beauty and glamorization. The Titanic had 4 smokestacks, out of which one was fake. The first 3 stacks were connected to the exhaust system, while the 4th strike was placed there only to enhance the beauty and made the ship look gigantic. The designer, Thomas Andrews, was convinced that the funnel would make the ship look grander to its competitors. Did you know that the top of the 4th stack was different from the other 3? It was fully covered, while the other 3 had a grid-like top. Number 3. Love story of an odd couple. In case you still don't believe in love, here's a perfect example for you to believe. However, the story of Jack and Rose in the movie Titanic is somehow similar to this odd couple. They decided not to get apart at the time of death, rather they preferred to stay together until the end. The story is about an old couple named Aceto and Ada Strauss. Ada left her seat at the lifeboat and got back to her husband. She refused to get apart from him. At the time of the ship sinking, they were eyewitnessed at the deck cuddling each other and waiting for death. It is truly a love story to be remembered. Number 2. There will be no Titanic remains in the future. You will be surprised to hear that there is a species that is eating Titanic for the past few years. It is a species of bacteria, Halomonas titanicae, that has been discovered from the remains of the Titanic and was first isolated in 2010. Some of these researchers have estimated that by the year 2030, the bacteria would completely deteriorate the Titanic wreck. The bacteria feed upon wood and iron deep down the sea. The remains of the Titanic were first discovered after 100 years of its destruction, and not all the remaining are being found to date. But the bacteria is trying its level best to eradicate Titanic from the sea. Number 1. Mostly women were rescued. We blame our society for only providing males the greater opportunities. Let me tell you how females from the Titanics were preferred to survive when the ship sank. The demographic study by researchers showed that 97% of the first-class females were rescued, while only 32% of the male's first-class passengers were saved. Out of these, the second-class male passengers have suffered the most. Only 14 out of 168 were rescued. The overall survival percentage for women was 74, while the male survival percentage was 20. The most heartbreaking thing you could hear, there were only 2 pets rescued, while there is no clear evidence of how many pets were on the ship. So guys, that was our list of the top 10 strangest facts about the Titanic. Which one for you was the weirdest fact? We're eager to know your opinion, so let us know in the comments section which fact fascinated you the most. If you guys like the content, do share it with your friends and consider subscribing to our channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Until then, peace.